Apache woman's bold bargain. Wild West survival story, Grizzled Cowboy meets unstoppable force. The sun was just beginning to rise over the endless plains of the Southwest, painting the sky with streaks of gold and red. The wind carried the dry, dusty scent of the desert, brushing against the worn-out buildings of a small settlement. This was a place where life was never easy, and survival depended on skill, courage, and a little luck. People in the settlement knew this truth all too well, but it was one truth they could never escape. Samuel Hayes, a grizzled cowboy with deep lines on his face and calloused hands, rode slowly into town. His horse, a loyal chestnut mare named Belle, carried him steadily, even though her sides were dust-covered and tired. Samuel had spent decades riding these lands, facing storms, bandits, and wild animals. His eyes were sharp, scanning every shadow, every movement. Experience had taught him to notice danger long before it appeared. He dismounted in front of the only saloon in the settlement, a weathered wooden building with swinging doors and a sign that creaked in the wind. Inside, a few men and women looked up from their sparse meals. Some nodded at him in quiet respect. Samuel was known for his ability to survive where others failed. He didn't speak much. His reputation and his silence carried weight. Outside the settlement, far from the dusty streets and small wooden buildings, another figure moved with grace and determination. Nayeli, a young Apache woman, walked through the rocky desert terrain. Her long dark hair was tied back, and her eyes, sharp and alert, scanned the horizon for danger. She was known among her people as someone brave and clever. Life in the desert had shaped her. She knew every rock, every hidden water source, and every path that could lead to safety or trouble. Nayeli carried a small pack with basic supplies. Her family depended on her to find food, water, and protection. She was not just surviving for herself, she was responsible for those she loved. The desert was unforgiving, and one wrong step could mean disaster. She moved silently, her footsteps barely making a sound on the dry earth. Samuel, meanwhile, had business to attend to in the settlement. Supplies were low, and he needed to plan his next journey. Water barrels were nearly empty, and the storekeeper grumbled about delayed shipments. Samuel's life was one of constant preparation. Every day required careful planning because the desert would not wait for anyone. As the morning passed, the settlement began to stir. Children ran between buildings, laughing and shouting despite the harshness of their surroundings. Women carried buckets of water from the small well near the edge of town. Men repaired fences or loaded wagons. Life here was simple but hard, and everyone learned to take what they could from each day. Samuel walked through the dusty streets, nodding to a few familiar faces. Even the people who didn't know him recognized the look in his eyes. He had seen too much to waste time on idle conversation. His presence alone was a reminder that the desert was dangerous, and only those prepared could thrive. Far beyond the town, Nayeli spotted movement on the horizon. A small herd of deer grazed near a distant rock formation. She approached carefully, crouching behind a boulder to avoid being seen. Every motion was calculated. She had learned the ways of the wild from her elders, and every lesson she remembered now. Stealth, patience, and observation were her tools, as powerful as any weapon. As she prepared to move closer, a sudden crack of gunfire echoed across the plain. Nayeli froze, listening. The sound came from the direction of the settlement. Her instincts screamed caution. The desert could hide dangers as easily as it revealed them. Slowly, she began to move toward the source of the sound, careful to stay low and unnoticed. Meanwhile, Samuel heard the gunfire as well. He moved quickly toward the edge of town, eyes narrowing. Bandits? A sudden fight between settlers? He couldn't tell yet, but decades of experience told him that action was required. Danger would not wait for hesitation. Nayeli approached cautiously, recognizing the familiar figure of a lone man riding near the edge of town. She had seen travelers before, and most were unprepared for the desert's challenges. But this man moved with purpose and confidence. Something about him was different. He was cautious but experienced, aware of the environment in a way that only someone who had survived countless dangers could be. Samuel, unaware of Nayeli's approach, found himself in a small but dangerous situation. A corner of the settlement, usually quiet, had become the scene of a small skirmish. Two men argued over a shipment of goods, and tempers flared quickly. Samuel kept a calm stance, watching for any sudden movements. Violence could erupt at any moment, and he needed to be ready. Nayeli, observing from a distance, noticed the tension. She could see how quickly the situation could spiral out of control. Her mind worked fast. She didn't want to intervene directly, but she knew that someone like Samuel might need help. She waited, assessing the safest way to approach if needed. The morning sun climbed higher, and the heat began to press down on the town. Dust rose from the streets as a horse kicked up the dry soil. Samuel remained steady, unshaken by the tension around him. His years of experience allowed him to read people and situations with remarkable clarity. He could sense when someone was bluffing, when danger was near, and when patience was required. Nayeli finally decided to move closer, keeping low and using the natural cover of rocks and small hills. Her movements were precise, almost silent. Every step was calculated to avoid detection. She had survived in the desert through observation and intelligence. She knew that a single mistake could be fatal. As she drew closer, Samuel noticed the shadow of someone moving along the rocks. His hand instinctively went to the rifle at his side, though he did not yet raise it. Experience told him that not all strangers were threats, but caution was necessary. His eyes tracked the figure carefully, measuring the distance and movement. The desert, vast and open, held many secrets. It could provide shelter, food, and safety, but it could just as easily turn deadly. Samuel and Nayeli, both skilled in survival, were unknowingly heading toward a meeting that would change both of their lives. The desert had a way of bringing together those who could adapt, endure, and act with courage. By midday, Nayeli had positioned herself on a small ridge overlooking Samuel. She could see that he was injured. His ankle appeared twisted from a recent fall, and he moved with a slight limp. Despite his injury, he continued toward the edge of the settlement, determined not to show weakness. She realized immediately that she could help him survive this stretch of desert if she chose to. Samuel, feeling the strain of his ankle, paused to rest. He scanned the horizon, unaware that someone watched him carefully from the ridge above. The desert sun beat down, relentless and unforgiving. Water was low, and he needed to find a safe place to rest before continuing. The heat and dust made every step difficult, but his resolve was strong. Nayeli decided that the time had come. She carefully descended from the ridge, moving in a way that would allow Samuel to notice her without being startled. Her approach was confident but non-threatening. She called out softly, offering assistance in the harsh language of the land. Samuel looked up, surprised to see her. At first he was cautious, his hand hovering near his rifle. But there was something about her presence, calm, strong, and purposeful, that told him she meant no harm. He lowered his hand slowly, curiosity replacing suspicion. Their eyes met, and in that moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them. Both had survived harsh landscapes, both understood the dangers of the desert, and both knew that working together could increase their chances of survival. Samuel nodded slowly, accepting the silent offer of help. Nayeli smiled briefly, knowing that their partnership, born of necessity, could be the key to navigating the challenges ahead. As the sun reached its peak, the unlikely pair prepared to leave the settlement behind. Samuel mounted Bell, careful with his injured ankle, while Nayeli led the way across the rugged terrain. The wind carried the scent of dust and sagebrush as they moved together, two skilled survivors facing a world that was harsh, unpredictable, and full of danger. In the vastness of the desert, every step mattered. Every decision could mean life or death. And though they did not yet know it, this meeting would set the stage for a journey that tested courage, intelligence, and the power of trust. Samuel and Nayeli were about to discover that even in the wild, unforgiving lands of the Southwest, survival depended not just on strength, but on wisdom, courage, and the ability to recognize an ally when one appeared. The journey had begun, and the desert, with all its challenges, awaited them. The desert stretched endlessly before Samuel and Nayeli. Rocks jutted from the sandy ground, and small cacti cast long shadows under the hot sun. The wind carried a dry, earthy smell that made the throat dry and lips crack. Every step was a test of patience, endurance, and attention. The two travelers moved carefully, each aware of the other's presence yet giving space. Samuel, with his injured ankle, was slower than usual, but Nayeli adjusted her pace, guiding him over hidden rocks and through safe paths. Their first day in the open desert was quiet. Samuel tried to make conversation, but words felt awkward at first. Nayeli spoke little, observing the land, listening to the wind, and watching for danger. Despite her silence, Samuel sensed her intelligence and experience. Her eyes moved constantly, scanning the terrain in a way he had learned to respect over decades. She was more than capable, she was an expert in survival. Around midday, the sun reached its highest point, beating down mercilessly. Heat waves rose from the sand, and the air shimmered in the distance. Samuel felt the weight of the sun on his shoulders. Water in his canteen was low, and he knew that dehydration could come quickly in such heat. Naeli, noticing his discomfort, pointed to a small depression in the ground, partially hidden by rocks. She gestured for him to follow, and together they approached. In that depression, water had gathered from a rare rainfall a few days earlier. It was not much, but enough to quench their thirst. Naeli demonstrated how to drink carefully, taking small sips to avoid drinking too fast. Samuel followed her lead. He was impressed, not just by the water she had found, but by her knowledge of survival techniques that only someone truly familiar with the desert could possess. After drinking, they rested in the shade of a rocky outcrop. Samuel flexed his ankle gently, wincing at the sharp pain. Naeli studied him closely, her expression serious. "You must move carefully," she said quietly. "This land is unforgiving if you fall or get hurt." Samuel nodded, silently appreciating the advice. He had faced dangers before, but her guidance felt different, like having a true partner who understood the wild better than anyone else he had ever known. By late afternoon, they resumed their journey. The desert was not empty. Distant sounds of animals echoed across the plains. A coyote howled, birds called from the sky, and insects buzzed over the sand. Samuel kept his rifle ready, though he did not expect immediate threats. Naeli moved gracefully, almost as if she were part of the desert itself. She led him around dangerous terrain, teaching him, without words, how to notice subtle changes in the land that indicated water, shelter, or danger. As they walked, Samuel finally asked about her life. Naeli hesitated at first, then spoke in a calm, measured voice. She told him about her family, her people, and the lessons she had learned in the desert. She described her training in tracking, hunting, and finding water in the driest places. Samuel listened, fascinated. He had seen many people in his life, but few had the depth of knowledge and skill that Naeli possessed. Her confidence was quiet but unwavering. Suddenly, a sound startled both of them. A gunshot echoed from the distance. Samuel froze, his body tensing. Naeli immediately crouched, scanning the horizon. The desert could hide threats as easily as it could provide safety. Samuel's instincts told him to find cover. Naeli pointed to a nearby rocky ridge, and together they moved quickly but silently. Every step was calculated to avoid drawing attention. From their vantage point on the ridge, they could see a small group of bandits surrounding a lone traveler. Samuel recognized the danger immediately. These men were desperate and reckless. Naeli watched silently, understanding the situation without needing words. She gestured for Samuel to wait, and then she began to signal to the traveler from a distance, using hand signs to guide him toward a safer path. Samuel marveled at her skill. She could communicate silently, read situations, and act decisively without hesitation. Her ability to remain calm under pressure reminded him of why she was considered unstoppable among her people. Together, they watched as the traveler, guided by Naeli's subtle signals, avoided the bandits and escaped safely. Samuel lowered his rifle, impressed. He had faced many dangers, but this display of intelligence and courage left him in awe. As evening approached, the desert cooled slightly, and the sky turned shades of orange and purple. Samuel and Naeli found a sheltered spot between rocks where they could rest for the night. Naeli started a small fire carefully, ensuring it would not be seen from a distance. The crackling flames provided warmth and a sense of safety. Samuel helped gather small branches, while Naeli prepared a simple meal of dried meat and edible plants she had collected along the way. During the meal, Samuel reflected on the day. He had learned something important. The desert was not just a test of physical strength. It was a test of observation, intelligence, and courage. Naeli had mastered these qualities, and her guidance had saved both their lives. He realized that survival was not just about fighting. It was about knowing when to act, when to wait, and how to make smart choices in a world that offered no second chances. That night, under a sky full of stars, Samuel and Naeli shared stories around the fire. Samuel spoke of his years on the plains, the storms he had survived, and the bandits he had faced. Naeli spoke of her people's traditions, the lessons she had learned from elders, and the skills that had kept her family safe. They began to understand each other better, forming a bond built on mutual respect and shared experience. Sleep was difficult in the desert. The wind shifted, carrying sand into their small camp, and distant animal sounds kept them alert. But for the first time, Samuel felt a sense of safety he had not known in years. Naeli's presence was reassuring. He knew that with her knowledge and skill, they could face the challenges ahead. She was not just a guide, she was an unstoppable force, and he was fortunate to have her at his side. The next morning, the desert greeted them with bright sunlight and a dry, relentless heat. Samuel's ankle was stiff, but he could walk with careful steps. Naeli had already scouted ahead, finding a safe route through a narrow canyon that avoided dangerous cliffs and hidden quicksand. She moved confidently, and Samuel followed, learning from her every action. As they traveled, they encountered a small stream, hidden by bushes and rocks. Naeli knelt to test the water, ensuring it was safe to drink. Samuel watched closely, noting her careful technique. The stream provided more than water. It gave them a moment of relief, a chance to rest and regain strength. Naeli also showed Samuel how to find edible plants near the water, teaching him to use every resource the desert offered. Later, they came across signs of other travelers, footprints, broken branches, and small campsites. Naeli interpreted each clue, teaching Samuel how to read the land and understand the movements of people and animals. The skills she shared were priceless. Samuel realized that survival was not just about fighting or enduring. It was about knowledge, awareness, and the ability to adapt. By afternoon, they reached the edge of a rocky plateau. From there, the desert spread endlessly in every direction, a vast and dangerous world. Samuel paused, taking in the view. He knew that many travelers had started here and never returned. But with Naeli by his side, he felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. Her courage and intelligence had already proven invaluable, and he knew that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the day ended, they set up another small camp. Naeli collected firewood while Samuel tended to his horse and checked his supplies. They ate a modest meal, sharing quiet conversation and occasional laughter. Despite the harshness of their environment, they found moments of comfort in each other's presence. Trust was slowly forming, built on respect, observation, and the shared experience of survival. That night, as they lay under the stars, Samuel reflected on what he had learned. The desert was more than a challenge, it was a teacher. It had introduced him to Naeli, a remarkable woman whose strength, intelligence, and courage were unmatched. He knew that the journey ahead would be difficult, but with her guidance, he felt prepared for whatever the wild lands might throw at them. Naeli, meanwhile, thought about the path ahead. She understood the dangers, the unpredictable weather, and the threat of other people who might not wish them well. Yet, she also saw potential, an opportunity to teach, to survive, and to create a bond that could withstand the harshest tests. Samuel was strong, experienced, and willing to learn. Together, they were more than individuals. They were a team capable of navigating the unforgiving desert. As sleep finally took them, the fire's glow dimming and the stars shining brightly overhead, both understood that this was only the beginning. The challenges of the desert were many, but so were the opportunities for courage, cleverness, and survival. The bond between Samuel and Naeli had begun to form, a partnership born out of necessity but destined to grow stronger with each passing day. In the desert, every step mattered, every decision counted, and every day was a test of strength, skill, and willpower. Samuel and Naeli had learned this lesson well, and as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, both knew that the real test, the one that would define their journey, was yet to come. The desert stretched endlessly, but Samuel and Naeli moved with confidence. By now, Samuel had begun to trust Naeli completely. Her knowledge of the land, her careful observation, and her quiet wisdom had proven invaluable. He realized that surviving in this harsh environment was not about brute strength alone. It was about patience, intelligence, and knowing how to read the world around you. Naeli had all these skills in abundance. As the morning sun rose, they came across a narrow canyon, its walls steep and jagged. The path was dangerous, and a single misstep could lead to serious injury. Samuel's ankle, still tender, made the journey more difficult. Naeli took the lead, demonstrating how to find stable footing and navigate the rocky slopes. Her movements were smooth and deliberate, each step carefully tested. Samuel followed closely, learning from her technique. Halfway through the canyon, they paused to rest near a small pool of water that had collected in a natural depression. The water was clear and cold, a rare gift in the desert. Naomi knelt beside it, showing Samuel how to drink slowly, making every drop count. She also taught him to look for edible plants nearby, roots, leaves, and berries that could sustain them. Samuel marveled at her skill. She had an uncanny ability to find life where most would see only desert. As they continued, the wind began to pick up, carrying sand and dust across the canyon floor. Visibility became poor, and every sound was amplified in the narrow space. Samuel adjusted his pace, relying on Naomi's guidance. She seemed to anticipate every obstacle before he even saw it, pointing out loose rocks and unstable ground. Her awareness of the environment reminded Samuel that the desert was not just a backdrop. It was an active participant in survival. By midday, they emerged from the canyon and found themselves on an open plateau. The view stretched for miles, and the heat was intense. Samuel's water supply was running low, and he could feel the fatigue in his muscles. Naomi, noticing his struggle, suggested they stop in the shade of a small rock formation. She knelt to examine the area, checking for signs of animals, predators, or other travelers. Samuel watched in admiration. Her thoroughness and caution were lessons in survival he had never formally learned, yet he recognized their importance immediately. While resting, Samuel asked Naomi about her past. She spoke carefully, revealing only bits of her life, enough to show her courage and resilience. She had grown up in the desert, learning from her elders how to survive in the harshest conditions. She had faced storms, hunger, and danger, and each challenge had made her stronger. Samuel listened, realizing that her experiences had shaped her into a formidable person, someone capable of surviving almost anything the wild could throw at her. Their rest was interrupted by distant cries. Samuel's instincts immediately went on high alert. Naomi rose, scanning the horizon with sharp eyes. A small group of men was approaching, their intentions unclear. Samuel's hand instinctively went to his rifle, but Naomi motioned him to wait. She had a plan. Using subtle gestures and hand signals, she directed Samuel to a hidden depression behind a boulder. They crouched low, watching as the men passed. Naomi explained later that reading people's movements was as important as reading the land. Survival depended on understanding both nature and humans. As evening approached, they continued toward a small settlement that Naomi had identified on the map. It was not far, but the path was difficult, with uneven terrain and hidden dangers. She moved steadily, teaching Samuel how to navigate by observing shadows, listening to subtle sounds, and understanding the behavior of animals. He began to understand that survival was not just about enduring hardships, but also about predicting them and acting wisely. Near a dry riverbed, they discovered tracks, fresh footprints of a small herd of deer. Naomi paused, showing Samuel how to follow them without disturbing the animals. Hunting was not always necessary, but knowing how to track was crucial. They moved slowly, silently, until they found a place where the deer had rested. Naomi explained which plants and berries could be used as food if meat was not available. Samuel realized that her survival skills were far beyond anything he had imagined. She could make the desert a home when others would see only danger. Night fell, and they set up a small camp in the shelter of a rocky outcrop. Naomi built a small fire, careful to keep it low and concealed. Samuel tended to his horse, Belle, giving her water and checking her hooves. They shared a simple meal, discussing their plans for the next day. Samuel noticed that their partnership was growing stronger. He trusted her completely, and she trusted him enough to share her knowledge. Together, they were becoming more than travelers. They were a team, capable of navigating challenges that neither could face alone. Sleep came fitfully. The desert was alive with sounds, distant howls, rustling bushes, and the occasional bird. Samuel lay awake for a while, reflecting on how much he had learned from Naomi in such a short time. Her courage, intelligence, and resilience had impressed him deeply. He realized that surviving the desert required more than physical strength. It required wisdom, awareness, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Naomi embodied all of these qualities. The next morning, they continued their journey. The terrain became increasingly difficult, with steep cliffs and narrow passes. Naomi moved confidently, leading Samuel through paths that were invisible to the untrained eye. Every step required focus, and Samuel's ankle, though improving, demanded caution. Naomi adjusted her pace to match his, ensuring that he could keep up without risking injury. Her care and thoughtfulness reminded Samuel that survival was not just about individual skill, but also about teamwork. By midday, they came across a group of travelers who had become lost. Naomi approached them cautiously, assessing the situation. The travelers were frightened and confused, unaware of the dangers surrounding them. Naomi guided them to a safer path, demonstrating her ability to help others even while ensuring her own safety. Samuel watched, learning from her example. Survival was not just about self-preservation. It was about understanding the environment and helping others navigate it safely when possible. As they moved on, Samuel began to notice subtle changes in the environment. Naomi explained that the patterns of wind, the behavior of birds, and even the color of the sand could indicate water, shelter, or danger nearby. Samuel realized that every detail mattered, and he had much to learn. Naomi's teachings were not just practical. They were lessons in observation, patience, and respect for the land. By late afternoon, they reached a ridge overlooking a vast valley. The view was breathtaking, but it also revealed dangers. Smoke from a distant fire indicated other travelers or settlers, and Samuel instinctively understood that not all of them would be friendly. Naomi studied the scene carefully, noting positions, movements, and possible risks. She devised a route that would allow them to move safely through the area without being noticed. Samuel followed her lead, learning to trust her instincts completely. As evening fell, they set up camp once again. The fire crackled softly, casting shadows on the rocks around them. They shared a quiet meal, discussing their progress and the lessons they had learned. Samuel reflected on how much he had grown in just a few days. Naomi's guidance had not only kept them alive, but had also taught him new ways to think, observe, and act in a world that demanded constant vigilance. That night, under a sky filled with stars, Samuel and Naomi talked quietly. Naomi shared stories of her people, their traditions, and the values that had shaped her. Samuel spoke of his life as a cowboy, the challenges he had faced, and the lessons he had learned on the plains. They began to understand each other more deeply, forming a bond that was more than convenience. It was mutual respect, trust, and admiration. Sleep finally came, but it was light and cautious. The desert was unpredictable, and both knew that every day brought new challenges. Samuel felt a growing sense of partnership. He understood that Naomi's knowledge, courage, and intelligence were his greatest assets in this harsh land. Naomi, in turn, recognized Samuel's experience, resilience, and willingness to learn. Together, they were a formidable team. The next morning, they continued their journey, moving with purpose and caution. They faced new challenges, rocky ridges, hidden waterholes, and sudden sandstorms. Each obstacle tested their skill, patience, and teamwork. Naomi guided them expertly, teaching Samuel how to adapt to changing conditions, conserve energy, and find opportunities where others would see only danger. Samuel's respect for her grew daily. She was not just a guide, she was an unstoppable force in the wild. By midday, they reached a narrow gorge, where the only path was treacherous and uneven. Samuel's ankle protested with every step, but Naomi stayed close, offering support and advice. She demonstrated how to distribute weight, maintain balance, and use the natural features of the land to move safely. Samuel followed her guidance, impressed by her expertise and careful attention. As they emerged from the gorge, the valley below revealed a new challenge, a small settlement threatened by bandits who sought to control the surrounding land. Naomi studied the area, noting defenses, movements, and potential risks. She whispered to Samuel about a plan, outlining a strategy to approach safely and assess the situation without immediate confrontation. Samuel listened carefully, trusting her judgment completely. The day ended with them finding a safe place to rest, hidden from view of the settlement and the bandits. They shared a simple meal and reflected on the day's lessons. Samuel realized that survival in the wild was not just about facing dangers. It was about understanding the land, anticipating threats, and forming alliances when necessary. Naomi had taught him these lessons through her actions, her guidance, and her calm intelligence. As night fell, the desert grew quiet. The stars shone brightly, and the fire's glow illuminated the rocks around them. Samuel and Naomi lay close to the warmth, sharing stories and observations. Their partnership had grown stronger, built on trust, respect, and the shared experience of survival. They knew that the challenges ahead would be even greater, but together they felt ready to face whatever the wild had in store. In the desert, every step mattered. Every decision counted, and every day was a test of courage, intelligence, and resilience. Samuel and Nayeli had learned these lessons well. They were no longer just travelers. They were a team, capable of facing dangers that would have defeated others. And as the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, both understood that the journey ahead would test not only their skills, but their courage, their trust, and their determination to survive together. The morning sun rose slowly over the desert, casting a warm glow on the rocky hills and open plains. Samuel and Nayeli had made camp in a small hollow, hidden from view of anyone who might be traveling nearby. The night had been quiet, giving them time to rest and recover. Samuel's ankle had improved slightly, thanks to Nayeli's careful guidance, and he felt ready to continue. But today's journey would bring new challenges, challenges that required not only survival skills, but strategy, courage, and trust. As they set out, Nayeli led Samuel along a narrow path that hugged the side of a rocky ridge. She moved with ease, stepping carefully over loose stones and small cracks in the earth. Samuel followed, doing his best to mimic her movements. Every step was measured, every decision deliberate. He realized that the desert was not forgiving of mistakes, and each moment demanded attention. After a few miles, they reached the edge of a small settlement. Smoke rose lazily from chimneys, and the sounds of life reached them even from a distance. Children laughed, women carried water, and men worked in the fields. But Samuel and Nayeli could also see the signs of trouble. Armed men patrolled the outskirts, their movements sharp and purposeful. It was clear that this settlement was under threat. Nayeli studied the scene carefully, her sharp eyes noticing details Samuel might have missed. She pointed to the guards' positions, the areas of open ground, and the paths the settlers might use to escape if needed. "They are worried about someone taking their land," she said quietly. "We need to be careful. We cannot walk in openly." Samuel nodded, trusting her judgment completely. He had seen many dangers in his life, but Nayeli's understanding of both people and land gave him confidence. They circled around the settlement, using natural cover, rocks, small hills, and sparse trees, to stay hidden. Nayeli led Samuel to a vantage point where they could observe without being seen. From this spot, they could see a wealthy landowner meeting with some of the armed men. His face was stern, and his presence commanded attention. Nayeli explained that he sought to take control of the surrounding land, including territory that belonged to her people. Samuel listened, realizing that this was not just a test of survival. It was a test of courage, negotiation, and intelligence. As they watched, Nayeli whispered her plan. She would approach the landowner and negotiate, using her knowledge of the land and her people's traditions. Samuel, though wary, agreed to follow her lead. He understood that brute force alone would not solve the problem. Nayeli's strategy required intelligence, patience, and courage, the same qualities that had already proven invaluable on their journey. They moved carefully toward the settlement, avoiding patrols and using every bit of natural cover. Nayeli's confidence was reassuring. Samuel noticed how people in the settlement moved around them without suspicion, unaware of the two figures who were about to change the course of events. Nayeli's calm and purposeful movements made her appear as if she belonged to the land itself. Samuel felt a sense of pride in following her, knowing that her guidance was the key to their success. When they reached the outskirts of the settlement, Nayeli called for a brief pause. She knelt, examining the ground for any signs of traps or hidden dangers. Samuel did the same, realizing how much he had learned from her over the past days. He could now read the land, notice subtle changes, and understand the signals that indicated safety or danger. Nayeli's teachings had transformed him from a cautious traveler into someone capable of navigating the wild with intelligence and skill. Carefully, they approached the landowner's camp. Nayeli spoke first, her voice calm and respectful. She explained her purpose, offering to help the settlement survive the harsh environment in exchange for protection of her people's land. The landowner listened, his expression unreadable. Samuel remained nearby, ready to act if needed, but trusting Nayeli's words and presence. The negotiation was tense but skillful. Nayeli presented her knowledge of the land as a form of expertise that was valuable to both the settlement and the landowner. She explained how she could guide settlers safely, provide resources, and help protect the territory from threats. Samuel observed quietly, impressed by her ability to balance strength and diplomacy. Nayeli's courage and intelligence were clear in every word and gesture. After some discussion, the landowner agreed to her terms. Nayeli had successfully made a bold bargain. She would assist the settlement, and in return, the landowner would respect her people's territory. Samuel felt a deep respect for her skill and bravery. This was more than survival. It was leadership, strategy, and the ability to achieve a goal without violence. Nayeli's plan had worked, and the results were clear: safety, respect, and protection for her people. With the negotiation complete, Samuel and Nayeli guided the settlers in preparing for the challenges ahead. They identified safe water sources, potential shelter, and routes that avoided bandits or dangerous terrain. Samuel assisted as best he could, but he realized that Nayeli's knowledge and leadership were the true strengths that would protect everyone. Her confidence inspired the settlers, and her strategies gave them hope. Over the next few days, Samuel observed Nayeli in action. She moved through the settlement, teaching people how to read the land, conserve resources, and prepare for unexpected dangers. Her instructions were clear and practical. Samuel helped where he could, but he saw that her presence transformed the settlement. People who had been fearful and uncertain began to move with purpose, inspired by her knowledge and courage. One evening, after a long day of guiding and teaching, Samuel and Nayeli sat together under a large oak tree near the settlement. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, and the air was warm but calm. Samuel reflected on the journey that had brought them here. He had faced storms, bandits, and harsh terrain, but none of those challenges had matched the complexity of this task: guiding people, negotiating with powerful figures, and ensuring the safety of an entire community. Nayeli had done it with grace and intelligence, proving that courage was not just about fighting, it was about thinking, planning, and leading. Nayeli looked at Samuel and smiled briefly. "The land is harsh," she said, "but people can survive if they understand it. Strength alone is not enough. Knowledge, patience, and courage are just as important." Samuel nodded, realizing the truth in her words. He had survived for decades, relying on experience and instinct, but Nayeli had shown him a new way to see survival, as a combination of skill, wisdom, and leadership. The next morning, they led the settlers in preparing defenses. They reinforced the settlement's perimeter, identified hidden water sources, and organized groups to watch for potential threats. Samuel worked alongside them, learning more from Nayeli with each task. She directed with quiet authority, moving efficiently and calmly, while Samuel assisted, recognizing that her expertise was unmatched. As the days passed, Samuel saw the impact of Nayeli's leadership. The settlement became stronger, more organized, and more resilient. People who had once feared the desert began to see it as a place they could navigate with skill and preparation. Nayeli's influence had transformed the community, not through force or fear, but through knowledge, courage, and determination. One evening, while checking the surrounding hills for any signs of danger, Samuel and Nayeli encountered a small group of travelers who had lost their way. Nayeli approached them carefully, assessing the situation. She guided them to the settlement, explaining how to avoid dangers and use the land to their advantage. Samuel watched, impressed once again by her skill. She was not just a survivor, she was a teacher, a leader, and a protector. By the end of the week, the settlement had become a model of resilience. Samuel reflected on how much he had learned from Nayeli. Her courage, intelligence, and leadership had changed the lives of many people, including himself. He realized that survival was not just about facing dangers alone. It was about understanding the land, guiding others, and making smart decisions under pressure. Nayeli had shown him the full meaning of strength and bravery. As night fell, Samuel and Nayeli sat together, watching the stars emerge in the clear desert sky. They had faced many challenges, navigated dangerous terrain, and negotiated with powerful figures. Their bond had grown stronger, built on trust, respect, and shared experience. Samuel knew that the journey was not yet over, but he also knew that with Nayeli by his side, they could face whatever challenges awaited them. The desert had tested them in countless ways, physically, mentally, and emotionally, but they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable. Nayeli's bold bargain had protected her people, guided the settlers, and proved that courage and intelligence could overcome even the harshest circumstances. Samuel felt a deep admiration for her. She was unstoppable, a force that could survive and thrive where others might fail. The next morning, the desert stretched before them, full of possibilities and dangers. Samuel and Nayeli prepared to continue their journey, knowing that each step mattered, each decision counted, and every challenge was an opportunity to learn and grow. They were no longer just travelers. They were a team, a partnership built on trust, courage, and the shared experience of survival. And as they moved forward, both understood that their greatest test had only just begun. The land, the people, and the challenges ahead would require all of their skill, intelligence, and determination. But together, Samuel and Nayeli were ready to face whatever the Wild West had in store. The morning sun rose slowly over the settlement, casting long shadows across the desert. Samuel and Nayeli prepared for another day, knowing that the challenges they faced were not yet over. The settlement had grown stronger under Nayeli's guidance, but the land remained harsh, unpredictable, and full of dangers. They had learned much, yet the final test of courage, intelligence, and resilience was approaching. The first task of the day was to inspect the perimeter of the settlement. Nayeli led the way, her movements careful and precise. Samuel followed closely, keeping an eye on the surrounding hills and valleys. Every step mattered. Rocks could conceal hidden dangers, and even the smallest miscalculation could lead to injury. Nayeli pointed out areas where the ground was unstable and where potential threats could appear. Samuel appreciated her meticulous attention to detail, realizing once again that survival required more than strength. It required awareness, observation, and strategy. As they reached a ridge overlooking the surrounding plains, they noticed smoke rising in the distance. Nayeli squinted against the sunlight, studying the scene carefully. "Bandits," she said quietly. "They are moving toward the settlement looking for easy prey." Samuel's heart tightened. He had faced bandits many times in his life, but Nayeli's calm assessment reminded him that panic would accomplish nothing. The key was preparation, intelligence, and careful action. Nayeli quickly devised a plan. She explained to Samuel how they would alert the settlers, organize defenses, and use the land to their advantage. Rocks, natural barriers, and hidden paths could provide protection, while narrow passages could channel the bandits into areas where they could be managed safely. Samuel listened carefully, impressed by her ability to think clearly under pressure. Nayeli's knowledge of both the desert and human behavior was unmatched. Together, they moved through the settlement, guiding the people to their positions. Nayeli instructed the women to secure the children and gather supplies, while the men prepared defensive positions. Samuel assisted wherever he could, but he noticed that the settlers' confidence had grown tremendously. They trusted Nayeli, respected her judgment, and followed her guidance without hesitation. It was clear that her leadership had transformed them from fearful, uncertain people into a capable and resilient community. As the bandits approached, Samuel and Nayeli observed from a vantage point. The men moved in groups, unaware that the settlers were prepared. Nayeli whispered instructions to Samuel, explaining how to signal the settlers and coordinate their movements. Every detail mattered. The wind, the terrain, and the sun's position could all influence the outcome. Samuel marveled at her skill. She was not just surviving the desert, she was mastering it. When the bandits reached the settlement, they were met with unexpected resistance. Nayeli had guided the settlers to hidden positions, using rocks and natural cover to their advantage. Samuel helped coordinate the defensive actions, but it was Nayeli's strategy that made the difference. The bandits were surprised, their movements confused by the settlers' unexpected preparedness. Nayeli moved among the defenders, providing instructions, encouragement, and quick solutions. Her presence inspired courage, turning fear into action. After a tense confrontation, the bandits realized they could not easily overcome the settlement. They retreated, frustrated and defeated, leaving the community intact. Samuel and Nayeli watched as the men fled, relief washing over them. The settlement had survived not through brute force alone, but through intelligence, planning, and courage. Nayeli's leadership had saved lives and ensured the safety of her people and the settlers. Samuel felt deep admiration for her. She was truly unstoppable. Once the danger had passed, Samuel and Nayeli helped the settlers repair damages and secure resources. Water supplies were replenished, paths were cleared, and defensive positions were reinforced. Samuel noticed how much the community had grown under Naomi's guidance. People who had once been fearful now moved with confidence, demonstrating skills and knowledge they had learned from her. Naomi's influence extended beyond mere survival. She had empowered the settlers to take control of their lives in the harsh desert environment. That evening, Samuel and Naomi sat together near a small fire, reflecting on the events of the day. The desert was quiet, the stars shining brightly above. Samuel spoke of the lessons he had learned from Naomi, the importance of observation, patience, and strategy. Naomi shared stories of her people, their traditions, and the values that had guided her through life. They had grown to understand each other deeply, forming a bond built on respect, trust, and shared experience. Samuel realized that he had changed. The desert had always tested him, but his journey with Naomi had taught him new ways to think, new ways to survive, and new ways to lead. He had learned that courage was not just about facing danger. It was about understanding it, planning for it, and guiding others through it. Naomi had shown him that true strength combined intelligence, patience, and determination. As night deepened, the settlement was calm and secure. Naomi walked among the people, ensuring that all were safe and that resources were distributed wisely. Samuel watched, appreciating the quiet confidence she inspired. Her ability to manage both people and the land was extraordinary. She was not only a survivor, she was a leader, a teacher, and a protector. The settlement had become a place of safety and hope because of her guidance. The following morning, Samuel and Naomi prepared to leave the settlement. Their work here was complete, but their journey continued. Samuel's ankle had fully recovered, and he felt stronger and more confident than ever. Naomi had taught him the value of careful planning, observation, and teamwork. Together, they had faced the harshest challenges of the desert and emerged victorious. As they rode across the plains, Naomi pointed out hidden water sources, safe paths, and landmarks that could guide travelers. Samuel listened intently, absorbing every detail. He realized that the knowledge Naomi possessed was invaluable, not just for survival, but for living with intelligence and awareness in a world that demanded constant vigilance. The desert could be harsh and unforgiving, but with skill, courage, and partnership, it could also be navigated successfully. Along the way, they encountered travelers in need of guidance. Naomi paused to help them, showing the safest routes and teaching them basic survival skills. Samuel assisted, but he noticed that Naomi's presence alone inspired confidence and courage in those she helped. Her knowledge, calmness, and determination were contagious. People learned to trust her, to follow her instructions, and to respect the land around them. By midday, they reached a hill overlooking a wide valley. From this vantage point, the desert stretched endlessly, dotted with settlements, hills, and rivers. Samuel paused, taking in the view. He realized that the journey had changed him. He had started as a cautious traveler, wary of danger and relying on experience alone. Now, with Naomi by his side, he understood that true survival required courage, intelligence, and partnership. Naomi had shown him that strength was not enough. Wisdom, observation, and compassion were equally important. As they descended into the valley, they came across a small group of settlers building new homes. Naomi stopped to offer guidance, explaining how to use the land wisely, conserve water, and create safe pathways. Samuel helped, but he knew that Naomi's guidance was what truly empowered them. The settlers had learned to navigate the desert not through fear, but through knowledge and careful preparation. Naomi's influence had extended far beyond their initial journey. She had transformed lives. Evening came, and Samuel and Naomi set up camp near a small stream. They rested, sharing a quiet meal and reflecting on their journey. The desert had tested them in countless ways, through harsh terrain, dangerous people, and scarce resources. Yet they had survived, grown stronger, and formed a bond built on trust, respect, and shared experience. Samuel realized that Naomi's courage, intelligence, and leadership had not only saved lives, but had also inspired them to rise above fear and uncertainty. Before sleep, they looked up at the sky, filled with stars. Samuel spoke quietly. "I have traveled many lands, faced storms, and fought dangers, but I have never met anyone like you. You are unstoppable, Naomi. You have taught me more than I could have imagined." Naomi smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "The land teaches us, and so do people. We survive not just for ourselves, but for those around us. Courage and knowledge go hand in hand. The next morning, they prepared to continue their journey across the desert. Samuel felt a deep sense of gratitude. Naeli had guided him, taught him, and shown him the meaning of true courage and leadership. Together, they had survived storms, bandits, and the harshness of the desert. They had protected settlements, guided people, and created lasting bonds. Samuel knew that this journey would remain in his memory forever. As they rode across the plains, Samuel and Naeli looked ahead with determination. The desert stretched endlessly, full of challenges and opportunities. They were prepared for whatever lay ahead, strengthened by their experiences and the trust they had built in each other. The journey was far from over, but together they were unstoppable. The Wild West was a harsh place, but courage, intelligence, and partnership had proven that even the most dangerous lands could be navigated successfully. By the time the sun began to set, casting golden light across the desert, Samuel and Naeli had reached the edge of another small settlement. They paused briefly, looking at the people below, seeing the impact of their journey. The settlements were safer, the people stronger, and their presence had inspired hope. Samuel realized that survival was not just about living day to day, it was about teaching, guiding, and creating a legacy. Naeli had done all this, and Samuel had been fortunate to witness it firsthand. As night fell, they set up camp one last time before continuing their journey. The desert was quiet, peaceful, and full of possibilities. Samuel and Naeli shared a moment of reflection, understanding that their journey together had changed them both. They had faced danger, learned from each other, and emerged stronger. Naeli's bold bargain, courage, and intelligence had ensured survival, safety, and hope for many. Samuel's respect, trust, and friendship had grown beyond measure. And as the stars shone brightly above the desert, Samuel and Naeli prepared to ride forward, knowing that whatever the future held, they would face it together. The desert was vast, the challenges many, but their courage, intelligence, and partnership made them unstoppable. Their journey had not only been about survival, it had been about learning, teaching, leading, and leaving a mark that would be remembered for years to come.